Let's talk about the R&D feature in Markstrat. If you want to modify an existing brand or create a new brand, you have to start with an R&D project. Think about it in terms of the real world. Every new technology, there was a lot of research that went behind the scenes. There were prototypes created and things were kind of tweaked. And then once things looked good, then they would create a saleable brand based on that particular research that was done and the prototype that was the result of that. So the same thing happens in Markstrat. So you've decided, let's say that you want to create a new brand. You want to target a different segment. So you've done some research and you know pretty much what that particular segment is looking for in a sonite. You want to do an R&D project that you'll be able to convert into a actual launch brand next period. So let's click on research and development, start a new sonites project. The first thing you need to do is give it a name. Project name is just the project itself. This is not the brand name. Always has to start with a PO. So let's say we've decided we're going to call this new brand Room. So we'll go ahead and call the project PO Room to avoid any sort of miscommunication. And project objective, this is just kind of a note for you. What are you going to do with this particular project? Create a brand to target Generation Z. Okay, and you've known from research that they would like 7 features. They would like a design index of 5. They want a battery life of 66. They want a display size of about 31. They want a processing power of about 55. So you've inputted in there, the characteristics you want this project and ultimately the brand that you're going to create from it to comprise. Down here, you have to basically tell it how much money are you willing to spend on this project, because R&D is not free. It's money that's going to come out of your budget. So 2 options are lowest possible, which is basically the simulation determines what the price is, or you can specify a base cost where you can say, all right, I want this project to cost this amount of money. The problem with that is you're limiting yourself based on financial constraints, and it's going to cause some problems with the completion of the project in the configuration you want. So I always recommend that you click on lowest possible. Okay. Then what you need to do is go down here and click run an online query. And all this does basically is it takes all of the characteristics that you put into this particular project and it estimates what it's going to cost. So click this, and so it's going to cost you $640,000 to create or to complete this R&D project. It's also, once it's been completed and you can launch it as a new brand, it's going to cost you roughly $118 per unit, assuming that you have an initial run of 100,000 units. If your initial production run based on this project is less than 100,000 units, that base cost is going to be higher. So $640,000 is how much this is going to cost. Okay. Over here, you go in and you enter how much money you want to spend on it this period. So normally you would spend, every penny that is required to complete it. If you don't have enough money but you want to get going, you can partially fund this, and so it'll partially run in the next period, but then you'll need to fund the rest of it the next period in order for it to complete. Okay, so if you want it completed the next period and ready to roll, you want to make sure that this number is the same as that number. Okay, there's also something called a feasibility study, which I do not recommend. It's going to basically extend the amount of time it takes to complete the project, but it's going to maybe provide you some areas where there might be some efficiencies or some things to do it differently. But it's really probably not worth doing. I've never recommended this, and I don't think anyone else would really recommend this as an idea, but it's there as an option. So you have this information here. Maybe you've decided that, well, no, that's a little bit too expensive. Maybe we can move the display size down a little bit. Let's go from 31 to 26. Then you can run the query again, and you'll get different numbers. That's going to knock $4 off the price of the unit, but your project is going to go up a little bit. So something about the smaller display size is cheaper to produce, but probably going to be more expensive in the design of it. Okay. Just know with all of these attributes, the higher the number, the more expensive the base cost is going to be. So say we want to shrink battery life, down to 40 from 66. We can run a query again, and here we've got our R&D budget has gone up to 1,200. Our base cost is shrunk to 109. So you can play around with those things. Just know that one limitation of the simulation is you can only do 5 queries per period. So I guess they just don't want you nickeling and diming the thing. So I'm going to move this back up to where it was just for illustrative purposes. Run the online query again, and then we're going to click Create. Oh, I don't think it likes the hyphens up here, so go ahead and maybe take the period out as well, and then click Create. Okay, and so now you can see here that you have an ordered project called PO Room that is going to go into your decisions, and if it's fully funded, it'll complete. The next period, you'll have it to be available to create a new brand or modify a new brand or modify an existing brand if you want to do that. Either way, you have to start with one of these projects. So that's a confusing thing about this as well. What if we want to change the battery life just a little bit to appeal to customers' needs? You can't just modify the brand itself. You have to create a new R&D project and go through this whole process again. Does that mirror the real world? Kind of, but kind of not. But just know that's the way the simulation works. So keep that in mind.